Good afternoon, everybody. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Diane Phillips. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday as we are going to be talking about some of those First Alert traffic conditions. With it being a holiday weekend, you're probably going to run into some slow spots on roadways. We do already have some accidents that are showing up here in mid-Michigan. Plus, we also are going to be talking about construction because I'm sure that's going to be slowing some of us down. Thankfully, a lot of those projects are going to hit the pause here for the holiday weekend, but we wanted to make sure that if you are traveling, you can kind of stay one step ahead so you can get to your destination safely and hopefully in pretty good timing. Of course, the weather, we do have a couple of showers that have been rolling on by. And as we look here at our Memorial Day forecast, thankfully it has been able to kind of dry out and shape up just a little bit better. We still have a few showers that are still going to be popping up as we go into Saturday. Sunday, yes, we do have that 10% there. It's going to be on the lighter side that we do have that rainfall, but I anticipate that if you have a picnic or a gathering that you're still going to be in good shape. I know I'm not canceling my weekend plans, and I'm going to be outside, so you shouldn't cancel yours either. Just have your First Alert weather app. Thankfully, Monday, I know that's when we have a lot of services. We have a lot of parades that are going to be taking place in our communities. So that's really going to be the pick day here, the weekend. You're going to find some nice weather. We also have partly cloudy skies and still cooler. That's kind of been the main event here of the conditions that we're going to see. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties on the microphone, so hopefully you can hear me now. Thankfully, Stone, he's helping us out in the back, kind of making sure that we stay up to date on everything. So hopefully, we did that mic check earlier, but of course it seems like we're back in business now. So kudos to Stone. But anyway, we were talking about our weather for the holiday weekend. Though it is a little bit cooler, a lot of those rain chances are going to be on the lighter side. So as I had mentioned, just have your First Alert weather app ready to go. I'll give you the QR code here in case you don't have it. I know we sent push alerts out so everybody could get onto our live stream here so we can talk about some of the traffic conditions that we're seeing. But again, you can always stay updated here with radar. We'll have video updates here throughout the weekend too, so you can kind of stay on top of the weather here in mid-Michigan. It also works if you are traveling too, so you don't have to worry about your weather not being there. We're always going to have you covered no matter where you're going. So as we look ahead into some of our traffic information, we are going to continue to have some of those updates, but we are going to find that we do have still a little bit of that weather that's going to be going on. So of course we kind of quickly talked about that, but before we do hop into the traffic, we are going to give you just a quick 1-minute break and we'll be right back. And welcome back. So we are going to be talking about our roadways that have so far been in pretty good shape. I do have quite a bit of green here on a lot of our traffic maps as we kind of pull up what we're working with. Here's a wide view across mid-Michigan. We have a couple of spots though that are already slowing us down, but we are going to continue to see some pretty good road conditions here along I-69. And we have seen some slowdowns towards Genesee County as well. But as we even look around 127, though we do have that part where the highway kind of slows down to 65, you may run into some of course, some slow spots, some campers going north, but overall, we're looking pretty good. Let's zoom in here, though, into Genesee County, where we do have some of those slower speeds. Of course, we do have the construction on 475 that is continuing on. We're going to be seeing that in the southbound lanes. Also, another thing to point out is right here, we do have that slow spot on 75. So this is going to continue to kind of be maybe an area. It's a little bit rougher road, and you may also, with those smaller lanes, kind of find find it's a little bit slower. So some of our road speeds, we're seeing those around 20 miles per hour in that red zone. Normally we should be seeing those around 65 to 70. So we are already seeing some spots that are a little bit slower. Of course, 475 southbound, we've been working through that construction here for a while, but we will continue to kind of work through that through the summer. That's one of the projects that is not going to be lifted here as we go through our holiday weekend. So if that's going to be part of your travel plans, just know you'll want to have a little more patience there. As we head a little bit closer to the Great Lakes Bay region, looks like 75 picks speed right back up. You're going to find here in Birch Run, we don't have any major slowdowns. Quite a few cars, though, that are headed in the northbound direction compared to the travel in the southbound lane. Not as many vehicles there, but that also aligns with our green maps here. Across the thumb, we also are moving at posted speeds. And even as we zoom a little bit closer towards 127 around Ithaca, Alma, you'll see that just a few of those specs come in, but still a lot of our folks are moving at posted speeds if you're going to be traveling up north taking 127. Now, as we move to our northern counties, we typically kind of see a little bit of a slower spot a little bit closer to Linwood. It's the northbound lanes of 75 that we are tracking some slowdowns here. So if you're headed out the door, of course, know some of these can start to change. You probably have your GPS on as well to maybe alert you to some slow spots. But here on 75, again, this is just going to be in the northbound lanes around Linwood south of Pinconning. You are going to find the speeds here. It's telling me only 6 miles per hour. So that's not very fast. We're not going to get to our destinations quickly through there, so have some patience. It does thankfully clear up the further north we go, and then once we get towards the Standish Sterling area, it seems to be that 75 kind of picks back up and we're in good shape. So here through mid-Michigan, thankfully, we don't have too much going on just yet. I do know, though, that as folks are going to be getting out of work here this afternoon, we will have that travel that does start to pick up as well. And so, of course, we'll be watching that pretty closely, and you may run into some of those slow spots. I do also want to hop over, let me get this set up, to our MDOT map, because we have found some slowdowns that you may run into. So this is the map that, of course, Michigan Department of Transportation is going to continue to update. So they are also signaling to that slowdown that we had there at 75. So that was reported about 40 minutes ago. So that's going to continue on. And you can kind of see it does fluctuate there through 75. Also, some of the latest updates are also showing that I-69 and 75 in Genesee County are a little bit slower, and it's mainly in the northbound lane. So we are seeing quite a bit of traffic headed in that direction. I know sometimes we can see some slowdowns towards Fenton, and it looks like we do have that. That seems to be a pretty popular spot, kind of coming around some of those curves and those bends. So if you're coming in between Genesee and Livingston counties, just know that 75 is also a little bit slower in that direction. That would be the Thompson Road exit that we start to see some of those slower roadways. Now, we did also have an accident icon a little bit further north here. So we talked about that congestion on 75, and that's all MDOT is saying, is that it is just mainline congestion. We don't have any accidents being reported, but of course it is going to bother a couple of lanes. I'm trying to remember through there if we have 2 or 3 lanes of 75 going in the northbound direction. So just know you may run into some of those spots that are just a little bit sluggish, but thankfully here around 211, we're not seeing too many big spots as far as major slowdowns or incidents. Now, I am going to bring up some of our construction, and I know that there is a lot on here coming across the state. So locally, one of the big things that we have been watching, and what I think a lot of you are going to have impacts on going into the weekend, is going to be the Zilwaukee Bridge. So that repair work has been going on since April, and that is going to continue to last until June 27th. So that will affect southbound. So if you're headed up north, no issues getting there, but getting home might be a little bit tricky. So the reroute on that, since the bridge is closed in the southbound direction, they're going to have you get off 75. They're going to merge you over to 675. So all of that traffic is going to continue. Already, we've been seeing on a lot of our Sundays that folks coming back home have that 675 detour, and then the traffic gets a little bit heavy coming through Saginaw. So if you're a local, just know you may want to avoid 675 on Monday as folks are coming home. You'll also find here, maybe even Sunday, you might have a little bit of traffic, but this is just something that we're going to be watching as we go through the summer. And then we will find July 14th. So after Independence Day, we'll have that construction switch directions. So the Zilwaukee Bridge repairs will start in the northbound again, July 14th, and that's going to last through November. We don't have a date in November yet from MDOT, but we will have, again, that northbound lane that will switch. So then northbound 675 will be the new detour route going around the Zilwaukee Bridge. So that's going to be something on the way to vacation, doesn't bother you, but on the way home could definitely slow you down. We typically also see some slowdowns as we head through the Flint area, 475, I-69. Also, some of the construction, we've been looking at some lane closures here towards Bridgeport, and that is one of the construction zones that is going to be lifted here just for the weekend. So starting at 3 o'clock, so in about 45 minutes, we have 92 construction zones in the state out of 158 that are going to be lifted. So that means that the cones will be pushed back, make it easier for travel through those zones, but they will be picked back up 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. So the Bridgeport construction, that's going to be one of those spots that we do see where the cones are going to be pushed back. We already have heard some folks in our newsroom saying that 75 northbound, yep, they already have the cones pushed out of the way. So that's why a lot of us are moving at posted speeds there. Also, we had talked about some of the spots that we usually see some slowdowns there in Flint towards Fenton. Another location that I want to check in with is going to be the bridge. So they had some construction work there. And you can see it's definitely slower here on the bridge. I'm going to work to bring one of my cameras up. So I'm going to take you back here quickly so I can do a little bit of work behind the scenes to bring up our camera for Mackinac, because the bridge, you can kind of see a little bit better on one of our cameras where that construction is. I know when we looked earlier, you would see that the bridge only had a lane in each direction. So this is going to be, it looks like that construction is still active. So let me pull that up for you. So this is the look at the bridge. So a lot of slow travel. This is just on the south side of the bridge. Of course, you have to pay the toll on the other side, so it's definitely slower there. And you can see we lost the 2 northbound lanes. So you have 1 lane going in each direction, and that's going to be the status that we have. So plan on the bridge being quite a bit slower. Not only today, but then also getting home. So that's going to be another spot that's very popular, but we do anticipate seeing slow down. So as I had mentioned, we were seeing those slower speeds on our traffic map, so that aligns pretty well with what we have on our cameras. So again, pack your patience. Also, there's a little bit of construction you can see that's just going to be coming off of 23 along the shoreline on the eastern portion headed into Mackinac. So as we look at some of the restrictions that are going to be lifted, this is the list from MDOT. I do also want to point out, I know MDOT's been working really hard to get the word out that there's been a lot of the scams for paying tolls. MDOT will not text you for any tolls. That's just not how they're doing. So they do want to stress that that is a scam. So after all this travel, if you do get a text message, just know that that is not how MDOT's going to go about any of that. So that is going to be a scam to keep yourself and your family and friends safe. If you are headed to the UP, you are going to see that 75 going into St. Ignace, so Mackinac County. That construction, if you maybe been up there, that's going to continue to be something that could impact you. Thankfully, 2 going across the UP does not have any construction that's going to be lasting here through the weekend, but we have 2 of our roads through Chippewa County and 1 in Alger County that are going to continue to see detours and construction zones into the UP. Now, Northern Lower, we had talked about the bridge. That's one of the spots, and as you can see, it is going to have 1 lane open in each direction, and that's going to be here for the whole weekend. That does not lift at 3 o'clock. So that is going to be something that is a little bit bothersome. A little bit closer to home in Iosco County, M55 will still have the detours there through Imperial Drive and Greenwood Road. And then in the Traverse City area, they have some construction there that's going to be slowing some folks down who are maybe going to be headed to Traverse City for the weekend. So we are going to find, as I bring our map back up, some slower conditions coming along 31 just on the south side, but coming into Traverse City, a lot of people trying to get there for the weekend. But here's this construction. So that's going to be M72. It's got a single lane closure. So that is still going to be active here for the weekend. So that means if you're not going on Mission Point Peninsula, but the peninsula further west, the Leelanau Peninsula, that is going to be a little bit maybe tricky getting out on 72 to head north into the peninsula. And you can even see some folks are having some slower conditions along 31 when it kind of turns in to head in there where M37 kind of connects. So I anticipate Traverse City to be a pretty popular spot for folks here this weekend. So just know that you're still going to have those orange barrels going. Maybe you're going to be going to West Michigan. I know the Great Lakes Loons are playing the Whitecaps this weekend. So just know that 96, there's been some construction. If that's the route you're going to take, you may find some slower conditions there along 96 as we can find on our map. So that construction zone is still going to be active around the Grand Rapids area though. So far looking pretty good, but there are still going to be some zones that you can run into some of those cones. So some of them are even in Montcalm County. I know that's a pretty popular way. If you want to get to the west side from here, you got to take 131 to maybe head south towards Grand Rapids. So you will still run into some construction there. So just know there is still construction projects that are going to be active all across the state, but still 92 out of 158 are going to be at least paused here. So that is good news for us. If you're going to be headed south though, you can still find this list in Southwest Michigan. There's still going to be some construction. A lot of it is in Berrien County, along 94, I-69, and even US 12 is still going to have some spots. And then here into the thumb, we had mentioned the Zilwaukee Bridge construction. The construction on 475, that's also going to continue to be an active spot for us. Even in Bay County, M13, M84, so the Lafayette Street Bridge, that work is going to continue to happen. So we still have quite a few of our state roads that are going to be impacted in our local counties. And then if you're headed maybe south out of the state, you'll still run into some spots. As I had mentioned, 96, we're going to be looking at some construction there. And the Tigers are home this weekend. So if you're headed to Detroit, I know we have that 75 construction from Genesee County line going into Oakland County. That's kind of tricky to navigate. So have some patience. You're definitely going to need to be moving at slower speeds through there as we have that tight construction. So just know that we are going to continue to see some spots that are a little bit trickier to navigate. But overall across the state, a lot of these zones are going to be lifting here at 3 o'clock. And I'll just share another view of the bridge because some folks are headed in the southbound direction, but I am sure that northbound is going to continue to be quite slow as we go through the rest of our afternoon and even into the evening as well. So again, just pack your patience. Another check of our local traffic here, you will see that the roadways are in the green for the most part. We just have those slow spots around 475 and in Flint, and then also along 75 and I-69. That's a little bit sluggish. It looks like our portion of Bay has started to, in Bay County 75, it looks like that has already started to clear up. So keep an eye to your roadways. As I had mentioned, kind of pack some patience here. You're going to just run into some slow spots. Again, a lot of that construction is still going to be hanging around. And as I had mentioned, the weather shouldn't be too much of a problem for folks who are going to be headed across the state, but still take your First Alert Weather app with you. As long as you set that up to your location, that will be able to keep you in the know and also stay on top of the weather. Of course, if you do want some of that latest travel information, you can go to WNEM.com. Under the weather section, there should be that traffic tab there for you to kind of keep an eye to conditions. And of course, we want to remind folks, wear your seatbelts, travel with some patience, and also drive the speed limit in those work zones and even just in the non-work zones. We want everybody to get to their destination safe and sound as we go here into the weekend. So have a good holiday weekend, stay safe, and we'll see you, of course, throughout the weekend. We'll have continual coverage, and also we will be talking about gas prices at 5 o'clock. So make sure you tune in right back here on our digital products or even over the air. We will be talking about some of those gas prices you may not want to see here going into the weekend. So have a safe one, and we'll be staying in touch.